Um, Ritu, I am just starting. Call me later, please. I'm doing it. Yes, the recording has started. And I think, Rupali, can you please start the
Yes,
program? Yeah.
yes. There's no end to education. It's not that you read a book, pass an examination, and finish with education. The whole of life, from the moment you are born to the moment you die, is a process of learning. That's why Mahatma Gandhi said, live as if you are to die tomorrow, learn as if you are to live forever. With such powerful words, I wish you all a nice afternoon. I, Rupali, on the behalf of Department of Commerce of Savitribai Phule Pune University, welcome our guest speaker for today's session of Sanjeevati series, Mrs. Snehal Sarkar. Our Head of Department of Commerce, Professor Dr. Supriya Patil ma'am, all the faculty members, Department of Commerce SPPU, my dear course-mates, and the freshers to this session of our webinar series, Sanjeevati, the Rejuvenation. Sanjeevati, the Rejuvenation, the webinar series, had been inaugurated with an objective of moving forward, revitalizing our thoughts, and energizing our actions. Through this webinar series, the department made a bounce back after COVID 19, inviting wise and knowledgeable leaders of various disciplines to show us paths so that we could better visualize the new normal, enhance the learning process in the new scenario for our students, also updating them with new skill sets required to enter professional world with completion of their courses. Marching ahead in the same series of sessions with Mrs. Snehal Sarkar, we are here in today's session wherein she'll be talking about the criticalities of resume writing. Before she starts with the session, I would like to invite our very dear HOD ma'am, Professor Dr. Supriya Patil, to say a few words. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Rupali, and a very good afternoon to Mrs. Snehal Sarkar, Mrs. Dr. Shamla, Ritu ma'am, Baisane sir, our other faculty members, and all my dear students. As Rupali just mentioned, this is our series of lectures, a webinar series, Sanjeevayati, which helps us rejuvenate. And rejuvenation occurs in several aspects of our life. Now, one of the important aspect of our life is looking ahead. As a student, that I'm saying, is looking ahead into future and what the future brings to us. And no matter what discipline you are from, no matter what career you want to take, go ahead, there are few things which are very important in all our lives, and that is making a very beautiful, wonderful resume, which once you take it across, you send it across by email or you hand it over to anybody, it should impress. Remember, whether it's a job or if it's a competitive exam or you're going to become a teacher, no matter where you go, a good resume will, take you for all the lengths that you need to go. Now, some things, of course, it has to have content, and the content definitely depends on you. But also, along with the content, what is important is how it is presented, how well it is brought out to present your best. And for this, today we have Mrs. Snehal Sarkar with us. She is one of the experts in the field. She works as a mentor, as a life coach, and is also a corporate trainer, as you just heard. And I have been associated with Sarkar ma'am for, I guess, more than about 12 or so years. And I have seen the way she has helped our students in different ways, helping them out with the group discussion sessions, with interviews and resume writing. So today for you, my dear friends, we have specially invited her, and she's going to help us walk through this important lesson that we all need, where we need, just before we enter the corporate world or we enter the world of entrepreneurship, business, no matter what. This is the step, I would say, not 1 or 0, but -1 that you really have to finish before you go ahead. With this, I'm going to stop here because I also want to listen to what she has to say. Over to you, back to you, Rupali, and then you can take care of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Always an addition to whatever we have. And it's time to welcome our guest speaker for the evening, Mrs. Snehal Sarkar. She is a certified master life coach from the American University of NLP and a corporate trainer with close to 15 years of management experience in hospitality and training with leading global brands like ITC Hotels Limited, Novotel, and Bharat Forge Limited in India and Canada. She has managed several elite VIP visits, such as former President Bill Clinton, Mr. Bill Gates, among various other C-level executives, dignitaries, and celebrities who admired her management and communication skills. She has a BA in English in communication, and afterwards, she did her post-graduation in human resources. Ma'am has specialized in training and development from Toronto, Canada. She was awarded with the Prime Minister's Scholarship, and she secured All India First Rank in Business Communication in the National Council for Hotel Management, Ministry of Tourism. Being fun-loving and energetic, she enjoys working with young professionals and likes to create an inspiring yet enjoyable learning experience. With her own venture, Mind Mantras, she has initiated a transformation in more than 10,000 professionals and students across industries with group workshops and one-on-one sessions. Her esteemed clientele includes Reserve Bank of India, Cognizant Technologies, Bharat Forge, CIBIL, among various others. She is also a visiting faculty for the ME and BE students at the Army Institute of Technology, MIT, PCCOE, and other colleges affiliated to Pune University. She is associate with the Department of Management Studies, PUMBA, as a faculty for business communication, international etiquette, as well as campus recruitment training. As a member of MCCIA, she has got the exposure to partner with organizations on various NSDC skill development projects for the youth in the rural Maharashtra. She enjoys creative writing and was selected as the winner of the Voice of HR contest in Times of India. Ascent, and has recently published a book of short stories for children, which you will find in Amazon. A lot to process, isn't it? Now, without any further ado, I request you guys to please keep yourself on mute and not to create any nuisance in the session. You may ask questions, if any, to ma'am once she finishes with it. I am pleased to welcome Mrs. Snehal Sarkar, ma'am, to take it over and start with the session. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rupali. That was extremely humbling. And thank you, Dr. Patil, for having me over. It's always a pleasure meeting. Every interaction with you is always enriching and inspiring for me as well. So great. Let's get into the session. So, of course, as Rupali said, we wouldn't want anybody to disturb or be a nuisance. But having said that, I would love for this session to be interactive. So please do speak up if you have questions. Don't hesitate. No questions are ever a stupid question. Please remember that. So feel free to ask, speak up, and interact as much as we can. So let's enjoy this while we are doing it as well. Right? I wish we were in a classroom and could have made this more interactive, but I'll try my best online as well. So let me just start by sharing my screen. Is it visible for all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Okay,
thank you. So we're going to talk about resume, which is kind of going to be the first step in your job search strategy that you plan for your own self, for your careers, anywhere, as Dr. Patil also said, any field you choose to get into, a resume is going to be something that will always be required, whatever stage of life you may be at in your careers, right? So before we get into the session, since you all are commerce students, let me ask you, have you all dealt with or are knowledgeable about buying property, like buying a house or a land, etc.? Has anybody been involved in that? Have you seen your family or friends, anybody? You have any knowledge of buying land or property? Yes, no, anyone? Any of the students? You can feel free to unmute yourself and speak. Yes.
Buying a land.
Yes. Have you ever seen any transaction like that? Buying land? Or
Buying a land, ma'am.
yes. So how do you pay? How much? Where was this land?
Ma'am, in my village, I just purchased
Okay.
in
And
last 2 months. I purchased 70 guntas. That is 1 acre, matlab 1.5 acre land purchase.
great. What is your name?
Ajay Munde.
Great. Ajay, so how was the cost of the land described as? So you said you bought 1 acre. So what, like when we go to buy vegetables, we say, okay, potatoes are 1 kg, 30 rupees a kg, or onions
हाँ
are.
ma'am.
So how did you buy that?
It is totally depending upon the market area. मतलब हमने जो लैंड वो बाय किया है वो थोड़ा सा मतलब रोड के बाजू में नहीं था या रेलवे स्टेशन. गांव में तो सिर्फ रोड्स और रेलवे स्टेशन रहते हैं ना. एयरपोर्ट वगैरह वैसा कुछ नहीं है इन रूरल एरिया.
तो उसका जो रेट कैसे लगा है, मतलब कैसे मेजर करते हैं? लैंड का रेट कैसे मेजर होता है? लैंड या घर जब खरीदते हैं तो उसका रेट कैसे मेजर होता है? जैसे
रहता है, जैसे
वेजिटेबल्स का किलो में होता है, दूध का लीटर में होता है,
स्क्वायर फीट,
राइट?
हाँ.
तो यू
और लैंड
पेड
गुंटा में गुंटा रहता है उसका.
गुंठा, एकड़, स्क्वायर फीट, बट पर स्क्वायर फीट या पर एकड़, राइट?
या what मैम?
The price is decided per acre or per square feet, am I right?
या गुंटा लैंड का गुंटा में होता है.
हाँ, तो गुंठा, जितने गुंटे खरीदोगे उतने लैक्स और करोड़ जो भी है पे करना पड़ेगा.
या.
So now I'm going to show you all a picture. I want you to imagine. Do you all know this? Do you all recognize what you see on the screen?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what property or land is this? Can you guess? What is it that you see in the picture?
Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal, right? So if somebody had to buy at the Taj Mahal, how much do you think it would cost?
It's a government property, ma'am.
Okay, so suppose the government decides to sell it because our country is in great need of money or something. Can you just take a guess, like a wild guess?
500 crore, 400 to 500 crore.
400 to 500 crore, that's it? Do you think it will be?
Million, I think. Millions.
Million?
Priceless, man.
Priceless, totally priceless. I mean, 400 crore, 500 crore, a million. Ultimately, someone said priceless. Now, trust me, that is what your resume is going to be for you, the Taj Mahal, as important as a property like Taj Mahal. And why do I call your resume a property or a piece of land or a house? Is because your every square inch of your resume, now resume is going to be on a piece of paper. So obviously, I'm measuring it in terms of square inches. We can't do gunta or acre. Is going to be priceless. That piece of paper, which will probably be an A4 size sheet, maybe 1 or 2 A4 size sheets, depending on how valuable your resume is. Every square inch of that piece of paper is going to be as priceless as the Taj Mahal. And that is how I would want you all to treat your resume, with that kind of importance. So everything that you put on your resume is also going to add to its worth. So like as we said, when we are buying land or a house, etc., we see everything around, right? Like our friend mentioned that, okay, his land probably costed more because it was near to the highway in the village and so on, right? So every piece of information on that resume is going to add to its value or its price or its saleability, in terms of every inch, whatever you add, every word you add to it, every sentence you put on it is what is going to make it priceless ultimately, right? So with that, so we have to choose what we put on our resume very, very carefully to give it that pricelessness. So before we start, let's just get into some basics of understanding. All of us, we hear these words: resume, CV, biodata, and so on. So what are these words basically? Now, CV or curriculum vitae is what you probably would have seen during your graduation days or even through college. A curriculum vitae is also like a resume, but it is more in depth, more intense, contains a lot more information. Right, so there is a set format which some of you may have seen. So where you, if some of you have made your CVs before, so you put in your personal details, then you put in your marks, etc. So you make a tabular form where you put in right from your 10th grade, possibly your 10th grade, 12th grade, graduation, and so on. You put all your academic details. You even put in the name of your institution, the marks you got, the GPA you scored, etc., etc. Am I correct? Is that how you all have been writing your CV?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
If some of you have work experience, then all the details of the entire job description probably will be in your CV. But today what we are going to talk about is your resume. Of course, the CV is similar, but the only difference here is that a resume is slightly more summarized. And the beauty of the resume is that since the format is also in your own hands, it gives you the advantage of putting in only what is relevant to the job that you are applying for, right? So to make it more valuable, we need to kind of understand what is the job we are applying for and then start writing our resume for it. Ideally, even a CV would prove a better purpose if we were to do it in a similar manner. So must always first understand what is the job you're applying for and then start writing your CV, resume, biodata, whatever you want to call it, right? Any questions up till now?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
So what should we be writing on our resumes is the first question. And so this is a clipping from the newspaper Times of India and Economic Times as well, which actually showed us that when recruiters are reading your resume, the first thing they look for is your skills, right? जैसे गाड़ी लेने जाते हैं तो पूछते हैं ना, माइलेज कितना देती है? It may be a Mercedes, it may be whatever brand you're buying, or a Maruti, but first thing you'll say, "Arey, mileage kitna deti hai?" Similarly, even in your resume, you may have a lot of degrees. I mean, you all are going to graduate as master's students now and so on. But ultimately, it's about the company wants to know what can you do for them. So what are those skills you bring to the table, which will make you more recruitable or hireable, right? So, and surprisingly in that survey shows that 60% are soft skills and only 40% are technical skills. So we go around with an assumption that, okay, we were first BCom and now we are masters, we've already done our masters. Now we should be definitely more valuable to the organization. But unfortunately, in a country like India, there are lots of other commerce graduates who will be probably graduating at the same time as you. So this tremendous competition, and there's no dearth of technical knowledge in the country. There are lots of colleges in Pune itself, right? So the point here becomes that the differentiator is your soft skills. What are those? So can someone elaborate? What do we mean by soft skills? Would someone like to share what is soft skills? Yes, no? Does anybody know what is soft skills?
Well, it basically includes all the non-technical things like the behavior or the mannerism you follow in life, the way you talk, the way you walk,
Ma'am,
the way you
ma'am, soft
respond
skills
to
like
things.
how we talk, how we talk, ma'am, how we enter in a interview room, how we sit, and
But that
etiquettes
is,
like
but those soft skills you'll show them when you get to the interview room, but your resume is the one which is going to get you there. So how do you show those skills before you even for them to even call you for the interview on your resume?
yeah,
Right? So you're absolutely right. Your soft skills are your ability to communicate. So your communication skills, your leadership skills, your team working ability. Can you work in a team? Because most organizations, you won't be typically working alone, right? You're joining an organization where they will be working amongst other people. Are you organized? Do you have good organizational skills? You all are entering the financial industry. Am I correct? You'll be entering the financial industry,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So
Yeah.
do you have good analytical skills? Are you good with numbers? Do you have
right.
ability to deal with stress or pressure or crisis? Because you all will be looking for managerial roles, I assume, right? And so on. So having said that, it's very important that first of all we identify what are those soft skills which are going to be required for the job that we are doing, or I mean applying for, and then make a list and then understand how can we put it into our resume. Where can it be showcased in our resume and how? So we will talk about that more as we go ahead. But before going into that, I'm going to show you two more pictures. So you see these two pictures on the screen. Now imagine you are having this now today. Unfortunately, we are having these series as web series online. But if we were to have this on campus, and so Dr. Patil will obviously expect you all to organize the venue where the speakers would come in and deliver the sessions, etc. So because we are in COVID times, obviously there'll be sanitizers required to be placed everywhere. So if Dr. Patil were to give you some money and tell you to go outside and buy a couple of bottle of sanitizers for the session, which shop would you go to? Shop A or shop B?
Shop B, ma'am.
Shop B.
Shopping.
Why?
Ma'am, because it's more organized.
Wouldn't shop A be cheaper? You'll probably save some money, right, for the university?
And depends upon the quality only. Quality over quantity, no?
Right. So you automatically, the minute I said sanitizer, and you automatically said, okay, yeah, it's quality over quantity, and that is why I would rather go to shop B. So that is going to be your first step for making your resume also, making it look presentable and pretty. So what is it that the resume is going to do for you? So what does your resume do for you? Can any of you answer that? Or many of you could answer that actually. What do you think the resume's purpose is?
It's present yourself.
To present yourself, right? Anybody else?
It shows your
Reflect all the
complete.
traits in us.
To give all the traits in you. Okay, good. Would
It
someone
shows
else?
it shows your complete picture without being one-on-one connection or contact with anyone.
Right, shows your picture, entire picture without being present there yourself. Great. Right, you're absolutely right. So because it's going to do all that you said, show off, show your personality off on a piece of paper, that is why the first aspect is your resume must be very visually appealing. So by visually appealing, I mean, it has to be neat and clean where everything can, when I pick up a resume, because typically recruiters, I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of talent acquisition specialists, and they tell me that for one job, typically they get at least 600 to 1,000 resumes, at least for the entry level jobs like some of might be applying for, right? It's only when you reach the top management or senior management level that probably even a resume doesn't count at that stage. But at entry level positions, most cases in a country like India, sometimes, especially when it goes online, the job, then sometimes there are 10,000 to 20,000 applicants or probably more. So imagine the number of resumes that one poor recruiter has to read. And that's why it's very important that when yours comes to their table, it looks so neat and clean and legible and readable that they should want to pick it up and leave the others on the side, right? the only purpose actually of the resume, that one and only purpose, is to get you to get your foot in the door, like you see in the picture, literally, to get you to that interview. You you are a great candidate, you have done extremely well in your academics, you may have lots of skills, like you may have done a lot of work experience or internships, you may have won a lot of competitions, awards, you probably must have written a few research papers, whatever. So you have a great profile, you're very good at MS Excel or QuickBooks or whatever other softwares or certifications may be necessary, and so on. But you know all that, but to get a chance to tell all that to the recruiter or the organization where you want to work, it's your resume which is going to get you to that spot, that chair or that interview room, which someone just mentioned some time back, right? So it must be visually appealing. So always ensure, especially if you're going to print your resume and send a hard copy or take a hard copy with you, please even be take cognizance to the quality of paper that you use. Typically, we just go to a printer or a photocopy shop and just ask them either to photocopy a few copies or just take a regular printout on a normal A4 size sheet. But what might be different is, well, many of those students may not be doing, who are probably not attending today's session, is choose some quality bond paper to take a good printout. Possibly take it on a good quality printer, not just any regular shop. So spend, instead of the 1 rupee or 2 rupee printout, possibly a 10 rupee or a 15 rupee printout, but make sure it's good quality, and so that it stands out. And you'll need probably 2 to 3 or 5 copies of that when you're going in for an interview, especially, or when you're sending it to somebody also. So make sure you take that step to print it also on very good quality paper, because when they hold it amongst those dozen others that they have on their table already, yours will definitely stand out. It does not have to be colorful, it has to be black and white on a white paper with black ink. So it doesn't have to be fancy to be eye-catching or distracting, but just the good quality paper might just stand out, right, at that time. Again, it must address all the job criteria. So the first thing before applying for that position is to read the job description. Are you all aware of job descriptions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so whenever a job posting comes out, either in a print media or online or Naukri.com or any of these online portals, they give the job description, that what are going to be the requirements for that job, right? Once you read it, then write your resume in a manner where everything that they require or have asked for, even if you don't have all of those qualities, whatever qualities you can showcase or already have in terms of qualifications, skills, knowledge, abilities, etc., try and put those first in your resume, right? For example, let's take my introduction. Thanks to Rupali, she gave a very extensive introduction for me. Do you all remember any of those snippets of it? Do you all remember any of it?
BA in English.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Sorry?
Ma'am, I almost remember all of it.
Okay, can you just tell us a few things that you remember?
Ma'am, I only gave the introduction.
Sorry?
I only gave your introduction.
Oh, okay, sorry, I can't see your face, Rupali. So, okay. So can you touch upon 2-3 points which you found were interesting?
Okay, the very first thing which I found was that you are a Master Life coach from the American University.
Okay.
Second thing was 15 years of management experience. And then you have worked with the former president, Bill Clinton, sir, and then Bill Gates and the Reserve Bank of India, and all those things were very fascinating. And I found it like really inspiring.
Okay, thank you. So did I mention that I was the captain of the basketball team in school?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay. Did I mention I have a diploma in journalism?
Yeah, certainly I know that.
No, it wasn't there, right? Okay. Did I mention I enjoy baking cakes?
No.
No, I didn't. Oh, do you think it would have impressed you as much if those things were mentioned?
Ma'am, that's something which is additional, but whatever we know is way more interesting than these things, I guess.
Right. So I may have done in my 15 years, I may have done a lot of things, right? But I need to choose today. I am addressing a student audience, which are commerce students from the university. I need to include only those things which might catch their attention or make them think of me as a someone who might be able to give them good inputs on resume writing, right? So I told you about my extensive corporate experience. I probably told you about my graduation a little bit. Okay, and then considering it's in English, then you may say, okay, she may have good resume writing skills. I told you a little bit about how I've been associated with the university for many years. So all those things which, now in this case, that was my job criteria. My job today is to teach you about resume writing skills, right? So if you were to assume this to be the job, then the relevant technical and soft skills that I showcase today were my educational qualifications, which were also only the relevant ones, and my soft skills. So I gave you some interesting bits about how I've handled VVIP delegations, etc., or how many years of experience I have, or how I enjoy creative writing. Why? Because it's today's purpose is good writing skills, and so on. So I only brought out, so just the way I gave you a self introduction, your resume is also kind of your brand or your self introduction to their employer. So it will also have to be addressing all the job criteria and showcasing your technical and soft skills, and something that highlights your accomplishments. So the minute I wrote about the Prime Minister's scholarship, or me handling VVIP delegations like Bill Clinton, etc., everybody, some of you got interested, right? So now if I were to probably give the same session to high school graduates, I may leave out some of those things because they have no knowledge or expertise about the corporate world. So they may not actually relate to it or understand it either, right? That time probably I may have mentioned, okay, that I was the captain of my house in the school and I was the basketball team captain, because they are high school students. School students will relate to school related achievements. So customizing your resume, or so now here I'm giving the example of my introduction, but basically customizing your resume to talk about what is going to be relevant to the person who's reading it. It has to, of course, leverage your education, competencies, and interests. Now, very interesting, in fact, is the hobbies and interests part, which people just kind of just write reading, singing, and leave it. But trust me, as we go into the session, we will even see how that particular section can be a very important game changer for some of us when we give our resumes. So before we start writing our resume, the first step, identify what do you want to do. Only then you'll be able to write your resume, right? So I seriously suggest, I mean, since you all are probably studying from the comfort of your home right now and have the time as a result, because you're saving a lot of time in traveling, etc., take out the time to actually make a list of what are your passions, what do you really enjoy, what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities you have. So your knowledge probably would be your degrees, like you have your BCom or MCom, etc., or some other certifications you may have done along with it. Some of you might be preparing for your CA exam or something like that. So those knowledge, then skills which you may have developed. So what is your skill? If you are good with numbers, then what skills have you developed? Are you good with Excel sheets, or are you good with accounts, managing accounts? What are some of those different skills that you have? Some of you may say you have people skills. You are very good in talking to people. Or some of you may have good organizational skills. Like if you might be someone who's always picked on to organize events, seminars, etc. in campus. So you would have realized that, oh, I'm very good in organizing things. So identify all those skills, knowledge, and abilities that you have. You may also make a list of all the talents you have. Like some of you may be good in art, like poster making or drawing. Some of you may be good with machines. Probably you may have good technical skills, like you're someone who computers comes to you very easily, for example, something like that. Good with softwares, good with apps. Some of you may be good with social media. Since you are a younger generation, you have so many more things that you do online and so on. So make a list of those, and then identify what do you really enjoy, or what are you really, really good at. And that aspect of it which people would be willing to pay you to do as well. So there are many students. So this will also actually help you open up your avenues in terms of what all can you do when you graduate. So where all can your resume travel to, the different organizations that it can actually add value to, and then decide on how to go about writing it. because that will make you write a resume which will be powerful in terms of really showcasing what you are actually good at and love doing, and so that when you go for that interview you will be able to speak passionately about it, right? So having said that, today information is literally at the touch of a button, or literally at your fingertips, in the palm of your hand, in terms of even your mobile phones being smartphones. I have just mentioned a few online resources, but honestly, considering your generation, I think there are much more. During this COVID times at home, I'm seeing even my child, for example, introducing me to so many new apps like Discord, and I'm hearing all these new names where people and professionals with different interests are connecting with each other and so on. But of course, there is always Google for everything, and then there's LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook, etc., etc. Go online, look up what are the different profiles and what are the different skills people are looking for, which will be useful for you to showcase in your resume for different kind of jobs. So the kind of jobs you are looking for, start researching those jobs, start looking up people who are already in those jobs or have been in those jobs and have moved to senior positions. So if I, for example, want to be a teacher today, then is my master's bachelor's degree just enough? Maybe not. So what are the current people who are working as teachers requiring? So I would probably see that they require a med or a B.Ed at least, and maybe some teaching experience also. So how then I start working backwards on my resume by trying to get those things in place. So if I need a certain certification, then I'll go ahead and try and pursue that. Or if I need to kind of get certain papers in place, my documentation in place, do I need reference letters? Do those help? It'll give me the time to kind of gather all that information so that I can confidently put it in my resume. But when I'm writing it in my resume, I should definitely have those with me, right? So go online, search. You'll be able to identify some things that you've already done which you thought were not important, but maybe today they are, right? For example, some of us may have learned certain financial softwares which are probably not even popularly available in the market right now, but since we were at home with COVID times, etc., maybe those are being in demand in the recent future and so on. So how can we kind of showcase it? What will really work when I put it on my resume? Many of them come to me and say, but I have no work experience. So what do I put on my resume? So a resume is not something you write. A resume is something you build. So while you have been here on campus, off campus, whatever little time in fact is left till you graduate, start thinking of how you can build your resume before you get down to writing it. So there are a lot of avenues. If you don't have work experience, you may have done certain internships. Maybe you've been involved in some project work. If not anything else, you may have probably attended certain events or etc. Now you are attending, for example, this webinar series. There's so much you would have probably gained from there. You have been listening to different speakers, right? A good way is to sometimes gain work experience by volunteering. I believe it said that on LinkedIn, LinkedIn did a survey which said that 40% of employers actually gave leverage to people who have done certain volunteer work. So no experience versus at least some unpaid voluntary experience. I mean, there's so many NGOs out there which you can go and lend your support to. Like you have great accounting skills. I'm hoping, or I think I'm assuming. So you could actually lend your support to even small businesses, right, to manage their balance sheets or etc. or do their accounting work. They may not pay you, but it will definitely count as work experience if they can at least give you a letter of recommendation that so and so came and helped me, right? So there are a lot of opportunities out there. You have to think that, okay, if I don't have much to put on my resume, how can I gather some? So start thinking about those aspects. I may have, so for example, I have had students who probably, since they were studying now, they used to go and volunteer at their friend's mother's shop on the weekends. Now that wasn't work experience. They didn't have an offer letter or a proper employee position there. But since they used to help out on weekends by working there, it did count as work experience in terms of at least the knowledge, skills, and abilities you may have gained. Right. So apart from her accounting skills, she also learned how to speak to customers there, and she developed her leadership skills because she had to take initiative to manage the shop inventory, the stock taking, etc., etc. So she was gaining experience even if it was not through a formal job. So see what are the various aspects you may have through which you can gain experience if you've not already been at it, or at least dig up whatever you've done since your college or school days so that you can add that to your resume today, right? Now coming down to the basics of what is the structure of a good resume. So of course we know the basics. It has to contain your personal details, name and contact information, the objective or profile at the top, then of course the work experience, academic qualifications, then last but not the least, the professional development, hobbies and interests. Now, instead of showing it to you on a slide, I'm just going to share a kind of a format of a resume, which will help you understand this better. Any questions till then, up till now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So is the screen visible, the Word document?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is just a basic, simple format of a resume that I'm showing you here. Now, it does not really have to contain the word resume on top, right? Now, if you notice, there is a spelling of resume. Now, this word resume, resume, in English means to start doing something again, right? And resume is a French word which has this accent mark. So either you use this spelling, which you see on the screen right now, in terms of this accent mark on top of the E's, which makes the pronunciation in French as resume. So it is not resume, it's resume. So the E becomes a in pronunciation, right? So either you use this spelling or a simple resume. The resume spelling is also fine. So you don't have to write this word on top of. So because as we said, our resume is the Taj Mahal. So every square inch is important. So let's not waste space by putting a heading here of which says biodata, resume, etc. You may not actually have to do it also, unless they have mentioned it in a format. So now some organizations may give you a format in which you are required to fill in your details. So, for example, university also has its own standard format, right? So at that time, you need to follow that format. Of course, you can't vary from it. But if you're doing it on your own, then you have to think of every square inch of paper that you're using. So please use it completely to showcase yourself and get rid of what is not important. So of course, your name is important, your address and brief. So typically nowadays, most of the communication is online. So your entire detailed address may or may not be important. But of course, city and state helps definitely, because people want to know where you are so that they can consider hiring you in that manner as well, right? If you're a localite, or will you need to be relocating and so on. Phone number, the most information, because that's how they're going to reach you. So make sure you give your phone number which is current and in working condition and easily reachable. Doesn't have to always be a mobile or a landline, whatever is the most reliable contact number. Considering it's an online world, nowadays it's also trending that we put in our LinkedIn profile or any online profile which we have. I have heard of some professionals going ahead and creating their own online web pages, right? So you could put a link to that web page where you could have showcased more details over and above your resume, which people can go and have a look. LinkedIn also, for example, helps because people give you recommendations on LinkedIn. So if a recruiter is really keen, he can go up and look you up there and see references, recommendations, and over and above things. They may also like to see how you engage online through your posts, etc. What have you been posting? What have people been writing about you, and so on. So it's quite trendy to even add your online profile right at the top. Right. So that is about personal details. You can, definitely avoid details like date of birth or marital status and so on. I don't know why some people actually go ahead and put that. Your date of birth is not really important unless they have asked for it, or unless you think it's going to add any value. Like if example, if the job description says that someone in the age group of 18 to 25, then you possibly might think of adding your date of birth to tell them that you are in that age group. Otherwise, if it just says fresh graduates, not important, right? Again, right on top of your page is your profile or your objective. Now, if you choose to write your objective, then it better be something that is concretely clearly sending out a message to the recruiter that who you are and what are you seeking. So just writing, I am seeking suitable opportunities for my growth prospects, not enough. They don't know who you are and what you can do and what are you actually seeking. Versus, for example, me saying I'm a communication and etiquette trainer seeking opportunities in business communication and campus recruitment training related opportunities. Now that becomes a concrete objective that, okay, I am this, so I have a qualification which is relevant, and hence I am seeking opportunities in this. So my suggestion would be, yes. Someone has a question? Okay. So my suggestion would be a profile gives you a better use of space, because you can actually showcase who you are based. You would have already read which job you're applying for, right? So they also know if you're applying there, you have an objective of joining them, and that is why you're applying. So use that space instead to showcase who you are in a few lines. Now, typically, we say that human beings have a very short attention span. Like they say 6 to 7 seconds is attention span of people. They lose interest after the first 6 to 7 seconds, max to max 10, 20, 30 seconds. Trust me, but I see working with a lot of young students, younger generation, I think has an even lesser attention span. You all seem to lose interest very quickly. Also because of, like, we come from a generation of long letters, right? Where we would exchange 3, 4, 5 pages letters with our friends, versus your generation, which actually exchanges a few words of text messages to communicate with each other, right? Am I right that even WhatsApp has reduced to Snapchat, or possibly, I don't know, any other apps which I may be missing out on, where to communicate to each other, to say happy birthday, I see people writing HBD, right? Or see you is just a C and a U, and so on. So with every passing generation, the communication has gone shorter and shorter and briefer, and hence the attention span of people have also gone down or lowered considerably. So, I mean, trust me, how many of you, when you attend these 1 hour long sessions, really stay focused through the whole 60 minutes? I'm sure there are times when you're phasing off, probably looking at your mobile phone and checking your messages, or looking out of the window, I don't know, doing what, right? Or thinking about what you're going to be probably doing in the evening, or having for dinner, etc., etc. So imagine the recruiter who's reading thousands of resumes to get his or her attention. You might as well make the top few inches of your real estate called resume really, really worthy enough to grab attention. So these first few lines of profile are very, very important. Write them thoughtfully, showcase exactly what you have achieved or done or have in terms of your technical skills and your soft skills. Also trying to keep in mind the job description. So for example, there are job descriptions which talk about certain technical qualifications. If they have written QuickBooks, and if you have a certification in QuickBooks, or you have a certification in MS Advanced Excel or something like that, which may be relevant to the job that you're applying for, put it right up in your profile along with your masters in commerce and so on. Because if they're looking for that and they see those keywords, so I should probably use the word keywords here, is every job posting will have those keywords which they are definitely looking for. Ensure you're putting them up right up in your profile so that they read it in the first 6-7 seconds. That will get them interested in reading the rest of your resume. So you are making their job easy. So instead of having a very complicated looking resume, give them something simple which they can quickly scan and understand, okay, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and put you in that shortlisted candidate pile, right? Now here it's also important that you customize each resume for each job. What we typically do in the beginning of the year, we make one resume, and then every time somebody asks us for a resume, we just attach that file and send it. Sometimes I have had instances, in fact, when even the previous person's email was also forwarded to me. So that was even worse. Forget customizing the resume, even the cover letter and was as it is forwarded to me with the previous employer's name also in it. That was even more embarrassing. And then I'm like, oh my God, if she's applied this in this place, then why is she applying with us? Would be the first thought, right? So please make sure you are customizing your resume to suit that job. Now, it may not be big changes. Sometimes it may be just small changes. For example, if somebody's asked for QuickBooks and Excel, you've already mentioned it, but in another job and posting, they mentioned some digital marketing experience. Oh wow, I have also done this. I have done Facebook marketing in my vacations. Let me just mention that. So add that quickly to your profile. So that it makes it easier for the headhunter or recruiter who's reading it to immediately grasp and match it to their keywords. Trust me, the first person typically who will read your resume may not actually be the ultimate person who's going to hire you. And that is the real challenge. So the first person who's probably typically reading your resume is someone who's probably from human resource, like the HR department and so on, right? So they are not totally knowledgeable about the job also themselves. What they are just doing is they have been given the profile of the employee that they have to look for. So they'll just look for those keywords. Okay, MCOM chahiye. Okay, this person is MCOM. Good communication chahiye. Okay, this person seems to have good communication. Okay, they have ticked marked those 5-6 things that I'm looking for. Let me give this resume to my boss. It's the boss who's the actual recruiter or the person who's going to be working with you. So you have to actually catch the attention of the person who may not actually understand your job either. So that makes it even more challenging and important that you put in the keywords as per the job posting. Again, then coming down to the next important section, which is your professional experience. Here, since many of you might be fresh graduates with possibly very little experience, you may consider sometimes adding your internships or even part-time job experiences as professional experience. Just ensure you showcase it in the right way. So you put the job title. So as an example, let me use one of mine. So I was assistant manager, guest relations. I'm using the example of the company I work for, Bharat Forge. So I will write assistant manager, name of the company, Bharat Forge, and then I'll possibly put some dates. Now what happens is, now I was in India when I used to work with Bharat Forge, right? And then I relocated to Canada. Now, when I go to a company in Canada for a job, they don't know what Bharat Forge is. There is no company called Bharat Forge in Canada. So I need to tell them what kind of organization also it is. So now Bharat Forge, incidentally, is the world's largest automotive component manufacturing company, which has a headquarter in Pune, incidentally. So if someone who doesn't know Bharat Forge reads my resume, assistant manager, guest relation, Bharat Forge, okay, it must be some ordinary company. We are a very big multinational company. What will this lady understand about working big companies? So I need to tell her that Bharat Forge Limited is also the world's largest multinational automotive component manufacturing company, right? Just one single line, which will completely change their perception about some organization. Do you, any of you here have work experience? Anyone who's had certain work experience between the last few years? No? Any kind of part-time work that you may be doing or have done, or internship, etc.?
I have.
Okay, can you elaborate? Tell us a little more. What's your name?
Srinath.
Okay, Srinath, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Ma'am, I'm working in a government authority.
Okay.
Irrigation department.
Very good.
Since last since this year's May month.
Very good. So what is your job title there?
Clerical clerk, as clerk.
Right. So you could write your job title as clerk. Name of the organization is? So what is the department or company, I mean, that you work for? Is it
Kukdi
Department of Irrigation?
Yeah, ma'am. The name is Kukdi Distribution Construction Division, Kohodi.
Great. So that will come as the name of the company. And then in the bracket, you can say that it is a Government of India or Government of Maharashtra organization, right? Organization which comes under the Government of Maharashtra, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that will tell them. So if I were to just say Kukdi, honestly, I have not heard of this company at all. Right? But if you were to tell me in that description, that single line which says Government of Maharashtra, I would immediately be impressed. I was like, wow, this person works for the Government of Maharashtra. That's impressive. So you have to help people know you through your resume. So if you're trying to impress someone through your resume, then you have to help them in that process, right? So the minute you said Government of Maharashtra, I was like, wow, I mean, he's just a fresh graduate and he's working in the government department. That's impressive. So if you were to just say, I'm working as a clerk in Kukdi, then I don't know. I mean, what is that? Is that even a company? So all those thoughts will come to me automatically, right? So am I clear in what I'm trying to say here? So help people know where you are working to make a good impression. Even if it's a small company, it's okay. At least describe what it does, right? Is it into manufacturing? Is it into textiles? Is it into healthcare or hospitality? At least give some description so that people will know where you are coming from and how you can be a good fit for their company when they're hiring you, right? Again, the use of action verbs. So using statements which say what you did, what you do there. So for example, let's ask your friend who works in the Government of Maharashtra, what do you do there? You said you work as a clerk. So what do you do there? Yes, Srinath, what do you do there?
Day-to-day correspondence and other Marathi typing work.
Right. So instead of writing on your resume, I do Marathi typing work. If you replace that sentence by saying I manage day-to-day correspondence, which sounds better?
Yes, ma'am.
Manage day-to-day correspondence, right? Now, typing Marathi document seems very okay. Anyone can do this, but manages day-to-day correspondence sounds very professional, right? Oh my, impressive. Okay, he's in charge. So that means Srinath must be someone very trustworthy or responsible because he manages day-to-day correspondence. So that action word, manages, creates, coordinates, took initiative to start. So you may possibly, so ever since you have joined, has it happened that you were given certain jobs, but then you were given some more work also because you were already good at what you were doing? Did that happen ever? You've just joined them in May, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So since May to now, have they added some work in your profile? Like you were doing some things and then next month they said, okay, do this also now.
Yes, ma'am. I am also preparing the DTP, drafting tender paper.
Wow. So preparing DTP documentation, whatever. Now, I don't know the technical words for it, but the words like preparing, managing, creating, these kind of things show action that you do this. Otherwise, just writing the job day-to-day daily tasks, everybody knows. I mean, if you're a clerk, they know you'll be managing accounts, right? That goes without saying. But if you tell them what are you doing over and above that, over and above your day-to-day clerical responsibilities, that can help them say, okay, this person takes additional responsibility. He or she must be good. Or he or she seems to be in few months, in just 2 months, they've been given so many additional jobs in their profile. That means they must be someone who show good leadership, because they seem to have been taking initiative to take on more responsibility and so on. So it just shows more other qualities of your personality as well, which you are, so some responsibilities which your typical probably clerical role may not have, but you're already doing those things. So it's nice to showcase those on your resume. Yes, somebody's saying something. Can I help you?
Somebody's mic is on. Can you please mute your mic? You already muted everybody's mic, but still.
Okay, that's okay. No problem.
Akshay, can you please? I'll just mute his mic.
No problem. So another important, again, aspect of writing in your professional experience is your achievements. Because end of the day, everybody likes. So maybe you received some employee of the month award, or maybe you received certain appreciation letter from one of your seniors in the organization, and so on. So including those in your resume is very, very important. Otherwise, typically what happens is people write their duties, data entry, accounts, balance sheet, etc., etc., etc. But they forget that, okay, but that's something every role of clerk may be expected to do. But what have I done over and above? Okay, I won the employee of the month, or I was selected to represent my company at such and such event, and so on. So something which you've done over and above your role, which is an achievement of some sort, which must be showcased in that section, definitely. Again, while writing those sentences, make sure you've read the job posting and use some of those keywords which they may look for. So, for example, you may be managing the accounts for that department, but the job, and you may be using QuickBooks. I don't know what is the software that you use for managing accounts. I'm just saying Tally or QuickBooks or something like that. Now, you may not write it otherwise in your resume. You may have written just that managing day-to-day accounts. But the job posting says we require someone with knowledge of Tally and QuickBooks. Now, how do you show that here? Instead of writing just I manage day-to-day accounts, you write managing day-to-day accounts using QuickBooks or using Tally. Now, please pardon my technical knowledge. I may be using just the wrong words, technical words, but I am not from commerce background. But I'm just trying to give you examples that read the job posting, what have they asked for, and how can you and where can you show it in your resume. So if you're already doing it, then use those words in your resume also, right? Again, education, a very important part, possibly considering some of your fresh graduates with no work experience. This is probably the most important part. So make sure you write it in a manner which makes it easy to understand and eye-catching also at the same time. So obviously the name of the university or college and the dates of the duration of the course that you've pursued, the name of the degree or diploma or certification that you have undergone there. It helps to put the grade achieved. Now, the beauty of a resume versus a CV is that you can make it selective. So you don't have to put the grade if you think it's not very impressive or it's going to create a bad impression. Now, if I have done a degree program where I scored 60%, then I may not want to put 60% marks on my resume. But if probably the performance of the university that year was such that even my 60% put me in the top 3% of my class or top 5% of my class, like I could be a third rank holder or a second rank holder also with 60%. Possibly the exams were difficult, everybody did badly, and even though I scored only 60%, I came third in my class, right? Now, trust me, it's happened to me. Like Rupali read in my introduction, I had the Prime Minister's scholarship for All India first rank. So I had scored only in my 70s or something in that exam. But unfortunately, the whole country did badly. So even myself. So now if I were to put 70% on my resume, whereas where other applicants are writing 90% marks, then obviously I'm not going to be creating a good impression. But versus the real fact was that year when I graduated, I topped the country in that subject. So I rather write secured All India first rank and not write how much marks I got. Are you getting my point? So a lot of people struggle with this because they're like, ma'am, but and especially when you're writing your education chronological order. So you always write the latest that you're doing. So which is the last course that you all will be writing on your education section? For majority of you. MCom, right? Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you'll be writing your masters in commerce, and then you'll be probably going down to BCom and then grade 12 and grade 10. Now, as you get senior on a resume, honestly, I mean, if the university format demands you possibly to write till your 10th grade. But if you are sending a resume out on your own, I suggest you can actually leave your 10th grade and even your 12th grade out at times, because if you are doing your masters in commerce, it's obvious that you did your 10th standard and 12th standard. And at that master's level, some of you probably have already even worked maybe for 1 or 2 years or are working along with your commerce course. The 10th and 12th standard will be even less relevant. What you did there doesn't matter now, because you are all postgraduates now. So you have not even in college. So your high school is not recent past, honestly, right? So unless the job, the recruiter requires it. So read the job posting. If you think the job posting requires it, then please add those details. Don't leave them out otherwise. But otherwise, if you're on your own applying for a job where they've not asked for it, then your master's and your graduation level is more than enough. What will in fact add more value is any other certifications or degrees if you have, or diplomas if you have, like if you've done a course, certificate course in advanced Excel or something like that, then maybe write those aspects. What you can also do in this case is, I have not added that, is you can add another section of skills. And here you can say technical and soft skills. Is my screen visible? So there are some technical skills which we may not have a certification for. For example, I know how to use Microsoft PowerPoint, right? But I don't have a certificate to show that I'm good at PowerPoint. So, but no, so I don't have a name of university or degree, diploma, etc. So, but I need to feature that. I can feature that under my education as an additional skill. So it's a technical skill. So MS Office is a technical skill that I have, right? Or in your case, possibly some accounting related softwares might be some technical skills which you may know how to use, but you may not have a degree or diploma to show for it, but you are already good at it. So you could write those in these in this section by writing them as skills or additional certifications and so on. The last section on the resume is your professional development and interests. Here, you could write about certain, for example, certain important events you may have been part of, or any extracurricular activities you may have done on campus, off campus, and so on, which are commendable or noticeable or even relevant to the job. For example, in my introduction, Rupali spoke about my creative writing and how I won a Times of India award. Now that typically in my resume would go under professional development and interests. Why? Because many times if you read job postings, they also ask for certain skills like creativity, right? Now, how do I show my creativity? That, okay, I can say that, okay, I've won an award for creative writing. So that may show to the employer that I am a creative person, or I've published a book. So I can talk about that. So find out. So hobbies and interests are also important, that you don't just write singing and reading and dancing, etc. Make sure you write something more concrete about it. So if you like sports, for example, what kind of sports do you play, or have you been part of a team? So if I say chess, then if I were to tell you that I play chess, what would that make you think about my personality? What kind of a person would I be if I'm good at chess? Yes, anybody, if you can unmute and speak. This is the time to unmute, actually. So what do you think would be my personality if...
Management, decision making, stress management.
Right. So I may be good at all these things, right? Because I'm a chess player. So But then just playing chess, I mean, all of us have some point of time in our childhood have played chess. Is there anybody who doesn't know what is chess in this batch? Is there somebody who's not even heard of the word chess? I don't think so, right? So, but if I have been like a state level chess player or a district level state player or maybe a national level chess player, then I might as well write that in my hobbies and interests. Playing chess is my hobby. Now, I don't want to become a professional chess player, so obviously chess remains my hobby, but I have an achievement around it. So I'm a national level chess player. Or I write that I'm interested, my hobby is art. I like painting. Then maybe I've given a C certificate exam while in school for it. Or so I have a C certificate in art or whatever. So make your hobbies and interests also more concrete, more valuable. So I'll tell you, in fact, one of the students had written, in fact, from Pumba itself, who had written in his hobbies and interests music, and he had written part of a rock band, part of the college rock band. So, and he had specifically mentioned interested in hard rock music. Now, coincidentally, the interview also happened to like that kind of music. So when the resume went to him and he read those interests, he immediately started getting into a conversation about music. But now, because that candidate had written music, hard rock music, it's also important that you actually know what it is. So he had to know which bands and which are the popular singers, etc., etc. Right? So that's all about the format. So make sure you use every part correctly. Again, using action words. So using words to show communication. I interviewed, I listened, I networked, I presented, I joined, I participated, I directed, I created, etc., etc. Action words which show that you have done something. And last but not the least, some do's and don'ts. So there's a simple mantra for a good resume. It's called the KICK principle, KICC. Keep it clean and crisp, visually appealing, and easy to read and attractive with all the content that is there on it. Each word has to add some value to me. So when you are reading your resume, ask yourself only one question when you read every line. So what? And by so what, I mean, so what, why am I putting this information? How is it going to help the reader? So just today, actually, somebody sent me this joke on WhatsApp. One elder sister is talking to her younger brother and she's saying, oh, it's grandma's birthday and I bought her a football. So the younger brother is like, but why did you get grandma football? How is Ajji going to play football at her age? She's like, so what? She also gave me a Bhagavad Gita for my birthday. What am I going to do with a Bhagavad Gita at this age? So now the moral of the story is that don't think about yourself, what you like or what you may think you are good at or whatever. Think of the employer or the recruiter who you're sending the resume to. What do they want? And then give them that. Give them what they want. So whatever you're putting on their resume has to be from the perspective of the person who's going to read it. Think of them reading it and then kind of make the format for your resume. So keep it simple so that they can quickly grasp the information. So must be brief, 1 to 2 pages. Don't make it very long, 2-3 page long resume, which is all stories which may or may not be relevant, right? Just the way I spoke about my baking and basketball, etc. Not relevant, not important. Customize it with keywords that are relevant to the job. So read the job posting or at least ask, like if you have people who are in charge of placement, etc. And that's why the online tool also helps. So if you don't have a job posting, then go online, look on various online medias. This, if it's the job role says accounting analyst or accountant, then what does that role typically involve? So go online and look it up. There are a lot of resources nowadays where you can look up the job profile and then try and use those keywords. If you make a generic resume and try to send it, you trust me, you'll send 50 or 100 and you'll not get a single call for interview if it doesn't match the person's requirements. So make sure, take out time. So you rather send 10 resumes, but make them customized for that employer and send them before you give them out, right? So that they'll make a good impression on the person who's reading it. 50 resumes might get you 0 response versus 10 really well thought out resumes, which can get you at least 1 response or 1 interview, right? Which would you value more? Think about it. Again, grammar and spelling mistakes and formatting mistakes are a complete no-no. You cannot have a single mistake on your CV or resume or biodata that you're sending out. It completely spoils your brand. It just tells them that how careless you are. So please make sure you read it 5, 6, 10 times if required, or make someone else read it, better still, because you've been writing it yourself. Sometimes we don't see our own mistakes. So make someone, your elder sibling or parents or someone, read it. Write only the relevant achievements using action verbs. So write what is factual. Do not fabricate or just try to copy paste the keywords. And in the hope that, okay, when I get the interview call, tab dekh lenge kya hota hai. That won't work, sorry. Please only put what is truthfully done. So when I say reading, it just becomes a very difficult hobby actually to put in interest, because when I say when I write reading, and many people, interviewers, start asking around that, okay, reading, what do you like to read? Then I have to quickly think about authors. Then they say, oh, this author, have you read this book? And then I'm like, oh my God, I read this book, but I actually don't even remember it now. And there, my whole interview is spoiled thereafter. So whatever you're writing on your resume, make sure you will be able to talk about it confidently when you're in that room. So know your resume inside out, right? Again, last but not the least, use the right font, style, size, and print on good quality paper. So use a text font like a Arial or Times New Roman if you're typing it. Don't use any of these fancy fonts. I know we are blessed with software such as MS Word and rich text and all, but they have a million fonts listed there. I don't know why they were designed that way, but please stick to the basic Arial or Times New Roman, because these fonts are easy to read. Cannot go wrong with it. Definitely you can't go wrong with it. It's safe and clear. And do not copy anyone's resume just for the heck of it. You can refer to other people's resume. Please go online, in fact, and refer to other resumes of people who are in your profile and with your kind of education and experience. But don't try to copy it word to word. Try to be original. Try to make it in correct language and add what is genuinely yours. So think about it. So pay that attention to think about what all have been your achievements. Sometimes you may have forgotten. So it sometimes even helps to speak to your parents or close friends or teachers or faculty from university, etc. You may have missed out. For example, Rupali today is getting a great experience of hosting this webinar, right? This could actually go somewhere in her resume if they ask for good communication skills. Had the opportunity to host the web series in the called Sanjeevati and etc. at the Pune University. So she can actually use it to showcase this in her resume if the job requires her to have good public speaking skills or good communication skills, right? So that's it from me. I think I've already taken up much of your time, but do you have any questions, or do you think you would like me to cover something more?
Sarkar ma'am, if I may, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So when you apply for a see, many of our students actually, they go for further education in different organizations.
Yes.
So when you're applying for another master's degree or a PhD degree versus you're applying for a job, what variation you should make in your resume?
So I
what
think
should you emphasize?
So I think education will come in handy, but if you really see, especially if you're applying to an international university or even Indian universities, they would look, since you're going for another master's or a PhD level course, they would want you to have some work experience also along with it to showcase. Either it could have been through an internship or through a project or through some research paper you may have done and so on. So at least in the top profile, then you could include those aspects which may differentiate you from other students. But I suppose if you're going, especially for a PhD level course, there would be a stronger selection process, right? So it's very important depending on the topic or the course that you selected, to kind of make sure actually that you have those relevant internships or projects, etc., in your kitty before you even think of applying, first
So
of
the
all.
first 5 seconds that you said, the first top part of
Yes.
the CV should have all the
Most
relevant.
relevant details. So it doesn't have to be a long paragraph. It could just be 2 or 3 bullet points, or maximum 4 bullet points, but they should have all those really important details, because again, there'll be a lot of students applying for their double
Yes.
masters or PhD. So even the selection committee won't have time to go through so many. But what will catch their eye is if you have done something, and if you have been able to get some relevant work experience in the way, then that will definitely make you a more valuable student than the others.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if you may agree with me, but I sincerely feel before another master's or PhD helps to have some work experience, or at least along with it, which can just make your profile look stronger. Okay, have I answered your question now?
Yes, actually you have. And that is what I was thinking, that, because not everything is about a skill set for a job. So that is
Yes.
where you probably want to put the skill set secondary, and your achievements or internships and projects slightly higher than the skill set.
So that would also be an important point, actually. If you're applying for another educational degree, then possibly your education as column can come above your work experience column in your resume, because that is what they will read first. That is their basic requirement. So when I say you should match the resume to the job posting, here the job posting is your educational institute admission. So the admission requirements will have to feature before in your resume. The first things to feature in your resume will have to be your admission requirements. So typically, like if they already want an existing master's, or probably having cleared the NET exam, etc., then those aspects will have to feature right on top with those scores, which also maybe actually there will be minimum requirement, right, for these admissions.
Right.
So those things can feature above, and the relevant work experience can come later. So that's the beauty of a resume, actually, that there is no fixed format. The format has to be matched to the reader who you're sending the resume to. So if it's an educational institute, then obviously your educational degrees are a priority. So put them above your work experience, and vice versa.
That's good. Thank you. Because on an average, about 30 to 40% students do go into the NET and then further education. And then some students go for competitive exams. And then there is a small number of a bunch of students who actually look for jobs. So it's a whole milieu of aspirants here.
So I think then if that's the case, then it's better that they start researching those requirements from now, since they have a few months before graduation. So that if there are any specifics that the university is going to demand where they are applying, then they might as well start getting that for their resume now. If they see that certain candidates who get selected have done some kind of particular projects or internships or something like that, then, or have published something, so then
or even
they
volunteering.
Volunteering is a great way, because also at that level, when you're going for your PhD or masters, the applicability of your skills will be also important. So if you may have learned a lot of theoretical knowledge here, but if you have not actually done something to understand how that knowledge works, it will probably be harder to pursue your PhD. I mean, I am not a PhD, but I am also assuming that is what it will be, because it will be more hands-on or more application driven as well.
True. Over to you, Rupali. Maybe if someone else has a question.
Guys, you can ask questions if any.
Ma'am, actually, hello?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Ma'am, is it mandatory to have a photocopy on a resume?
Photograph, is it?
Yeah,
It is not mandatory. It will depend on the employer. Sometimes they ask for a photograph. That time you may send it, or so it's not mandatory. It also depends on the kind of organization. Like some industries, they want certain kind of appearance of people. So that time they make it mandatory for you to put up a picture. But it's definitely not, if you're applying on your own and if they've not asked for it, then you don't have to.
Okay, ma'am.
You explained it so well. I don't reckon there will be any doubts. It was insightful, inspiring, great learnings, a significant and exceptionally amazing session it was.
Thank you.
Feels like if you could just talk for a little more time and we have a little more of you. The words you use, the way you talk, ma'am, it actually stands true to whatever we have heard about you. You were great throughout the time. So I, Rupali, again, on the behalf of our whole Department of Commerce, Savitribai Phule Pune University, feels delighted to take the privilege of proposing vote of thanks to you, that is Mrs. Snehal Sarkar, ma'am, for taking out time from her schedule for this session. I'm pretty sure every single person thoroughly enjoyed and learned a lot from today's session. Thank you so very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
A heartful and big thanks to our HOD, Professor Dr. Supriya Patil, ma'am, who always supports us and gives us great opportunities to listen to such great speakers. I express my gratitude towards Professor Dr. Shamla, ma'am, for taking such initiatives and organizing such sessions for all of us. Last but not the least, I thank each one of you who are present in the meeting for being such patient listeners and cooperating. By this, we come to the end of the session. Wish you all a good time ahead. See you all in the next session. And again, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. All the best.
Okay, thank you. You may close the meeting now.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I will.